Dorothy Guining with Scrapbooking Quebec. Today I'm here for the Scrapbook Nerd Online Shop, and I'm going to be creating a double page spread featuring Pinkfresh Studios' Life Right Now collection. In this video, I'm going to be sharing a double page concept, which is a bit different than a double page design. It's basically an approach that's flexible and it adapts to the material you have on hand and to your photos, how many photos you have, or how big your photos are. It's an easy way to create a two-pager once you get your head around this approach, and that's what I'm hoping to explain in this video. Here's what I'm going to be using, mostly material from the Life Right Now collection, except for the cardstock and the graph paper. That's from American Crafts and Simple Stories. I also have calendar stamps. Those are from P13. I got all of these products at the Scrapbook Nerd Online Shop, so I will link up the shop as well as the products I use in the description box below. So here's what's on my desk. I have two pieces of 12 by 12 charcoal cardstock, and that's going to be my foundation page. I have two more of these, and I'm going to be cutting into that a little bit later on. That's just the cover sheet to the Life Right Now collection. I have 5 photos here, 3 vertical, 2 horizontal, all matted in white cardstock. So here's the paper I'm going to use. That graph paper is just the flip side of that wood grain from Simple Stories. I only have a small piece of blue paper from this collection left, so I threw in that denim paper from Simple Stories, but I don't end up having to use it, so I just use that dotted paper after all. In this tray, I have a bunch of embellishments from the collection, except this. Those are washi tape sheets from 49 and Market that I don't end up using. I also have a basket with my tools. So I already spoke about those stamps, those calendar stamps, but I also have alpha dies from Memory Box, and I have a tag die set from Elizabeth Craft Design. So I'll talk more about these later in the process as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut up a bunch of pattern paper for my foundation page, and I will put measurements on the screen a little bit later on, but the measurements really aren't that important, because what's important here is that you have two 12 by 12 papers to create your 24 by 12 canvas that are identical. So I'm creating two identical 12 by 12 pages by adhering strips of paper across the two pages. You'll see that in a few moments. But this could also be two identical 12 by 12 pieces of paper, or it could be two identical pieces of paper with a border strip that goes across the two pages. The approach I'm using here, or the concept I'm using, is simply to start with two 12 by 12 papers to create the foundation page that are identical. So I'm showing you I have two piles of strips of paper that are identical, one for the left page and one for the right page. And before adhering them, I'm just applying a bit of ink. So the ink color I'm using is Morning Mist by Versifying Claire, and I don't make you watch all of this. So it's all done now, and now I'm going to place it on my foundation page just to give you an idea where I'm going with this. And you'll also notice that for the smaller strips of paper, I cut them in half, so they aren't full 12-inch strips. That's because in the middle of this 24 by 12 canvas, there is going to be a large photo mat, so it's going to be covered up. So I didn't feel the need to cut 12 by 12 strips. There's another thing I'd like to mention. I'm putting measurements on the screen, but it's for visible page parts only. And you're going to see when I adhere this, some of it is overlapped. So those are actually bigger pieces than the measurements listed on the screen. Just keep that in mind. However, what I'm trying to show you here is a concept. So truly, the measurements really aren't important. What's important here is that the right and left pages are identical. So I will continue adhering. I do that on the right side as well. And you can see I kind of tape the pages together. That was just making it easier to line up my strips of paper so that they would flow across the two pages. Now what I have to do is create a photo mat that is going to span across the two pages as well. And again, this is the approach. This is part of the concept, to have a mat that houses the photos that spans across the two pages. Now the size of the mat, that depends on the photos. What you see me doing right now is playing around with the placement of the photos. Once I'm happy with the placement of the photos, that's going to give me an idea how big to cut my photo mat that's going to span across the 2 pages. Now in this case, my 2 horizontal photos that are one on top of the other, that is the widest part. So that is where I am going to be cutting that gray paper. So I'm going to get out a pencil, I'm going to make a mark there, and that determines the width of my photo mat. So now what I'm going to do is cut that gray paper where I marked that pencil mark, and I'm going to do the same thing for the left-hand page as well, because I want it to flow across the 2 pages. But the size of my photos determined the width of that photo mat. So I'm going to cut this down for both pieces. Then what you're going to see me do is, once again, I'm going to place my photos there, and now I have to determine the length of these photo mats, and the photos are going to determine the length of the photo mat. So I'm going to place it on the page. You're going to see me do the very same thing, but obviously in this case the length is going to be different on the right than it is on the left. So if you're using more photos or fewer photos or bigger photos or smaller photos, the size of your photo mat that spans across the 2 pages is going to be different. That's why this is flexible. And the idea here, it's just an approach. And when I use this approach, double page spreads come together very, very quickly. So now I'm just trimming this down. And once I do trim the length of these, you're going to see me fuss a bit. I think it's crooked. I think I haven't cut it straight. So I'm fussing around with my T-square and trimming little hairline pieces off of the paper to make them equal. At one point I give up and I place them on the page and it looks fine to me. So anyway, once this is done, I'm going to place it all on the page. You're going to see as well that there are going to be gaps in this photo mat, because where the vertical photos are placed, there is going to be either a spot empty at the top or at the bottom of those photos. You're going to see what I mean in a minute, because the only photos that take up the full width of this photo mat are those 2 horizontal ones, one on top of the other. So anyway, before adhering any of this, I am going to have to play around with the placement of title and embellishment clusters and journaling box and all of that. So the next thing I'm going to do is cut some tags. So I'm going to get out my Big Shot, and I'm also going to get out that tag die set from Elizabeth Craft Designs. It's called Planner Essentials 26 Pocket Tag 4, something like that. It will be listed below. Basically, this tag die set comes with 2 tags, a large one and a small one. It comes with a tag pocket that I don't use on this page, and it also comes with a variety of tag toppers. So what I'm going to do is cut out 1 large one, 2 small ones, and then you're going to see me come in and cut out some tag toppers as well. I want to point out that I don't think this one is available in the shop at the moment. You can click on the Notify Me button and you will get an email as soon as it's available in the shop. But there are other tag die sets from Elizabeth Craft Designs and probably from other companies as well. They are available in the shop. I love tag dies for creating the base layer to embellishment clusters. They're fantastic for that. So you're going to see what I do with mine in a few moments. Right now, however, I do want to cut out the tag toppers. So the ones I select, because there is a variety there, there's almost like this torn notebook edge, and it's really, really cute, and you'll see what it looks like in a moment. I'm going to run the big one and the small one through here, and then when I place it on the white tag, you'll have a good look at how detailed these look. They're really, really quite cute. This is brand new to me, so I'm quite excited about it. I do love tags. Anyway, you're going to see right now I'm going to place it on top of that white tag so it looks like a torn notebook. I'm going to cut another small one in that floral paper, and what I will be doing with these tags is placing them in 2 areas on the page. And again, This is part of the approach or the concept that I use when I want to create a quick double page spread. So before placing them on the page, however, I'm just adhering those tag toppers on top of the tags. You can see one of them I didn't cut out the full tag because I do know I'm going to be tucking it behind a photo. So I didn't have to cut out the full tag. So I'm going to place all of this on the page and give you an idea where I'm going to be creating my clusters. So the main cluster is going to be on the bottom right. And when I use this approach to creating a double page spread, essentially once the base page is set and I have the photo mat established, what I do is I create two embellishment clusters, one in the top left and one, a larger one, in the bottom right that hugs the corner of the bottom right. And I'll talk about that a bit later on. You can see I have all of my embellishing around me, and I'm just showing you. I have the floral ephemera pack. Actually, I have two of them identical. I have chipboard, I have stickers and enamel dots. But right now I'm showing you my title. So I just showed you the dies from Memory Box. Those are 1.5-inch letters and they have a wood grain embossed on them. So what I did off camera was I cut myself out that blue polka dotted paper, and I also cut myself out one of those adhesive sheets from Be Creative, and I backed my blue paper in it. Then what I did was I ran the adhesive backed blue paper through my Big Shot with my alpha dies, and I created self-adhesive alphas. Absolutely fun alphas. I've been doing that a lot lately and I love the technique, and I'll talk a little bit about that a bit later on when I adhered them to the page. I also have the rest of my title from the alpha pack from this Life Right Now collection. So my entire title is going to be Spring Arrived a Little Late. I realize the blue looks pretty dark right now, but you actually can see it later on in the finished project. This is another thing I'd like to mention. Part of my approach or my concept to creating a double page spread. So when I create my embellishment clusters, one in the top left and the other hugging the corner in the bottom right, in the top left I put my title, and in the bottom right I put a repetition of that title. I do that all the time, and that's exactly what I'm going to be doing for this page. So right now I'm digging into that floral ephemera and I'm starting to tuck in floral pieces in that area in the top left and in the area in the bottom right. And you're going to notice when I create it in the bottom right, it hugs the corner. So I have it kind of snaking up the side of that photo on the right, but then you have the tags underneath the photo, and then to the left of the tags I have more floral pieces. So that entire cluster kind of hugs that photo. It's like a big giant cluster. At the top left you can see I have the title there, and I'm just tucking in some floral pieces. There was a little bit of a space between the tag and the title, so I tucked in another floral piece there just to avoid having some trapped white space. At this point, I have a lot of loose pieces on my desk. Don't forget, even the page mat isn't adhered at this point. So the photos aren't adhered, the photo mat's not adhered, and none of these embellishments are adhered either. I do play around with the title a little bit, and I do play around a bit more with that later on as well. But essentially, it's going to go more or less in the area where you see me placing it now. Now at this point, before adhering my pieces, I do want to stamp out the date on that tag in the top left. So you're going to see me get out that stamp set by P13. It's a calendar stamp set. It is in the shop. And basically what is on this stamp set are the months of the year, the days of the week. There are numbers between 0 and 31, which I really appreciate, and I'll explain that later on. And there's also a few abbreviations like TH and ND and stuff like that. So what I'm going to be stamping out is the date, which is May 9th, 2022. I've had it for a few months, but it's the first time I'm really using it, and it is working really well. photopolymer stamps are quite nice actually because you can see through them, but it is stamping nice and clear. So I have May 9 there. I'm adding the TH. And what I like about the numbers having 0 to 31, for the year, for example, I have 20 there. So those two numbers are together. And now I just have the number 22. So I got the year 2022. I didn't have to stamp out 4 numbers, and I really appreciated that. Now I'm ready to start adhering, and I'm going to start on the left-hand page for a specific reason. That's because the word spring does not fit on top of that gray cardstock with the photos. It's going to have to pop off of that. And the placement of those letters is important, and I hope I can explain this properly. Basically, you can see in the word spring there are holes in the letter P and R, for example. I did not want white and gray cardstock to be visible through the holes of those letters. I wanted it to be just white. So the placement of the letters was important, and the placement of that gray mat was important because I wanted to make sure it came right in the middle of those letters. So once I determined where that was, I adhered that gray mat to the page. Then I adhered the photos, I adhered the tag, and now what you see me doing is adhering those alphas that I appreciate so much because they are backed in those Be Creative tape sheets. Again, I've been doing that a lot lately, running it through my Big Shot, and it works fantastic for creating adhesive letters. Also off camera, I continued my title, including the word arrived. And now what you see me doing is just tucking in those florals and adhering them kind of all around that tag there, being careful not to cover up the date that I stamped out. And again, I'm just trying to decide, do I want the florals to be wider at the top and taper in, or vice versa? Those are the kind of things that are going through my head. But basically, I just find something that I like and go with it. Now I'm adhering the right-hand side. So I use the mat on the left to position the mat on the right. Now I'm adhering the photos down. I don't make you watch all of this, I don't think. I'm going to continue adhering the photos off screen. And now I'm going to continue with my embellishment cluster. So once again, I'm starting with those tags there. So those are the biggest pieces. I tuck them underneath the photo. And now what you're going to see me do is come in once again with all of these floral pieces and kind of have them wrap around my photo. Basically, I want this to be the main embellishment cluster, and it certainly is the approach I use when I create a double page spread like this. Again, identical pages across the 2 pages, a photo mat that accommodates the photo, then 2 main embellishment clusters with the main title in the top left and a repetition of the title in the bottom right. And you can see how my embellishments kind of hug the corner of that photo over on the right. So I got all that down, my title down, and now I'm just coming in with some finishing touches. So I'm coming in with that chipboard, those little circles there. I put a little purple one that says right here over in that cluster in the bottom right. And I did a repetition with that with another one in the top left that says let's go. I added some enamel dots into the tags, again repeating that purple color there. I'm coming in with some stickers, and I put one down there up by the title. I end up lifting that up, and I kind of hum and haw over a few of them. I end up not going with the stickers. I'm really quite happy with how this looks right now. So just before continuing, I want to review how to create a double page spread using a concept which is more of an adaptable approach to creating double page spreads. First, you start with 2 identical 12 by 12 foundation pages. Then you create a photo mat, and the size will be determined by the photos, and this should span across the 2 pages. Then you create 2 embellishment clusters, one in the top left, the other in the bottom right, and the one in the bottom right hugs the corner, and this essentially makes it bigger than the one in the top left. Also in the top left, you put a title, and you put a repetition of that in the bottom right. That's it. Anyway, off camera, all I ended up doing was my journaling. I think I snuck in one more piece of that chipboard, and I popped up the tips of some of the flowers with some foam adhesive just to add a little bit of dimension. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd greatly appreciate a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the Scrapbook Nerd YouTube channel, we would be thrilled if you did. And the same thing for my channel, Scrapbooking Quebec. Make sure you head on over to the Scrapbook Nerd Shop and check out these supplies and tons more. The link to that is all below. Have a great day, and I will see you soon on YouTube. Bye-bye.